Rudy Giuliani, who was recently hospitalized with coronavirus, is now out of the hospital where he will grace us with his, annoying statements, which all the news companies will get baited into covering and all want to blow my brains out. It's fantastic. I'm excited about that. But this story really does highlight how there are two different classes in regard to who gets appropriate coronavirus treatment and who does not. And so he admitted that he was treated by Trump's doctor. He had access to the same cocktail of experimental drugs that most people don't have access to. And he certainly bragged about it, especially as 3,054 Americans died in a single day on December 9th of coronavirus. So here he is on WABC bragging about the access he got to Trump's doctors.
I've gotten remdesivir and something or other.
Yeah. So it's the cocktail. It's the same protocol that the president got. Is that right?
Yes, right.
All right. So
exactly the same. His doctor sent me here.
Okay.
He talked me into it. I didn't want to really go to the hospital, and he said, "Don't be stupid. We can get it over with in 3 days if we send you." We send you to the hospital.
Well, it's wonderful news that you're feeling well.
Well, I have to say, the minute I took the cocktail yesterday, I felt 100% better. It works very quickly. Wow.
So he bragged about how it's working very quickly, but I just want to emphasize that most people are not going to have access to Donald Trump's doctors. In fact, at this point, Americans would be lucky if they get access to a hospital bed, considering how overwhelmed hospitals are throughout the country. More than a third of Americans live in areas where hospitals are running critically short of intensive care beds, federal data show. In El Paso, for instance, hospitals reported that just 13 out of 400 intensive care beds were not occupied last week. In Fargo, North Dakota, there were just 3. In Albuquerque, there were 0. 1 in 10 Americans across a large swath of the Midwest, South, and Southwest lives in an area where intensive care beds are either completely full or fewer than 5% of beds are available. There are other issues regarding access, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But Cenk, you want to jump in?
Yeah. So New Mexico is about to authorize doctors making decisions on who gets treatment and who doesn't, because they're almost completely out of beds. Now, and that means you can't go in an intensive care unit. That means Donald Trump has created a situation where we're gonna have death panels. So that's where we are today. And every Republican in the country is obsessed with trying to steal an election instead of fixing coronavirus and getting help to these folks. Oh, to be fair though, they rushed help to Rudy Giuliani and Chris Christie and Ben Carson, to every elite that is part of Donald Trump's group of elitist friends. So, hey, MAGA, did they rush treatment to you or your dad or your mom or your grandmother? No, they let them die. But Rudy's sick, we gotta rush treatment. For the cocktail combination that he has taken, that is very rare. So to give you a sense of how hard it is to get, in a state like Maine, it's a smaller state, but the Regeneron cocktail, only 98 of them, there's only 98 available. Once they're out, that's it, okay? Now that doesn't mean there isn't any treatment, but that's the one Rudy's bragging about how effective it is, right? Now in Utah, by the way, a very red state, okay? They're trying to determine who's the most likely to benefit from the drug. So they're gonna give them the drugs, and the others that they determined cannot be helped enough, well, off you go. And in Colorado, they're doing a lottery system, because unless you're connected to the elites like Rudy Giuliani, there's a decent chance they're gonna let you die.
So let's hear if Rudy Giuliani is even aware of that, because he continues to basically pretend as though, like, downplay the severity of this pandemic. So does he know about the differences in access, healthcare access that Americans are dealing with? Let's watch.
My biggest concern, though, Rudy, is the cocktail that you've been given is, from what I understand, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's not something that the normal American is going to be able to get because it's quite expensive. Is that a concern for you?
I didn't know that. I mean, they give it here at this hospital. At
certain hospitals can get it. I know there's a Northern Westchester Hospital, Westchester County Hospital. There are a couple of hospitals.
They went over with me the 5 methods of treatment that they have, and that's one of the methods of treatment that they have. So I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, of course he's not sure, because he doesn't need to know. He doesn't need to be concerned with what average Americans go through on a regular basis. He doesn't need to be concerned about how this disproportionately impacts average Americans as opposed to people who either have positions of power or who have access to people in positions of power. And so it is incredibly difficult to get this cocktail of drugs. It is incredibly expensive to get adequate coronavirus treatment. It is incredibly hard to find a bed where you can get treatment in a hospital right now. Reno, Nevada, one of the hospitals in Reno, Nevada just had to convert their parking garage, a dirty, dusty parking garage. They had to sanitize and turn it into an intensive care unit. That's what they had to do because they're so overwhelmed with coronavirus patients. But Rudy Giuliani doesn't care. He never even entertains the idea of understanding how this pandemic has destroyed the lives of countless Americans, has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans, has destroyed small businesses. He doesn't care about that. He pretends like he cares about the small businesses, but you look at where the funding went from the small business loans, and they disproportionately went to giant corporations that are in no way small businesses. He doesn't care. We don't have representation. There's all this talk about, we need representation of this gender or this race or this sexual orientation, which is all fine and dandy. But there's no representation for the poor in government. And I'm not just talking about Republicans, I'm talking about Democrats as well. You think that things would be significantly different in terms of the differences in healthcare under a Biden administration? Biden and his friends are gonna get top of the line treatment. Is he gonna do what it takes to improve healthcare? Nothing will fundamentally change according to what he told his donors.
Yeah, so in terms of Rudy's cluelessness, he says in that interview that Trump's personal doctor, well, actually government doctor, more accurately, is the one that made him go to the hospital, as you heard, and take these very rare cocktails. And first of all, I don't know why someone who works for the government is helping Rudy Giuliani. Rudy is Trump's personal attorney and does not work in the government at all. So that's a misuse of our taxpayer funds. I don't give a damn about Rudy Giuliani, and I don't want a single cent of mine being used on Rudy Giuliani. Second of all, he's such an elitist. I know he doesn't care about poor or middle class or other races. He doesn't care about any of that. He showed that when he was mayor of New York, let alone lately. But he doesn't even realize that other MAGA people and Trump's voters and supporters can't get this stuff either. You know how much Rudy Giuliani is charging you guys? And when I say you guys, I'm specifically talking about to the MAGA guys in the audience, because you're the ones paying for it by donating to Donald Trump. He's charging $20,000 a day for his legal services. So of course he doesn't care what it costs. I don't know that he's even paying it. And even if you are super rich, and now there's other articles talking about how the super rich are doing everything they can to get their hands on these cocktail of drugs because they're so rare. Because even if you're rich, you might not be able to get it because they're not available to most people. Rudy's like, so what? Don't you have Trump's doctor working for you? Don't you have the whole government at your at your footstep? And can't you guys all afford it? I don't know. I'm making $20,000 a day off of your stupid ass. So I could afford it, no problem. I didn't even think about you guys. I keep sending money, idiots.